Hello, everyone. We are back, Flat Earth Conspiracy Channel, and this is our first Sunday morning show, and we're kind of testing this out to see if this is a good time for us to do a live hangout. And I have an awesome panel today, or we do. Lawrence is with us as usual. And we have Ronnie from Event Skeptic, and we have Jason from Awake Souls. And soon, John from One Willicki will be joining us. So thank you for watching and for sharing this video when you get the opportunity. And here we go. So say hello, Lawrence. Oh, and here's John Willicki. So hi, John, and welcome.
Hey guys.
Hi, John. Yeah. All right. Well, just to kick the show off, there's some breaking news today, and I was having a chat with Laurie before the show, and she was, you know, I've thrown a lot of clues into the melting pot over the past year or so, and Laurie's put a whole lot of them together to me now, and she was blowing my mind. It was all making so much sense that it brought this little thought into my head that we have to play this little clip as an introduction before we let Laurie loose and tell you what she's concluded from all these bits of the jigsaw and how she's put them all together. So, Laurie, if you can let it roll and show that 4-minute clip, which is quite entertaining anyway, and you'll know why I've played it once you've played it. Make sure the volume's on. Give it a full screen, Laurie.
Just a second.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here tonight, as all of us are, to pay tribute to an American icon, an actor, a filmmaker, and truly one of my personal heroes, Mr. Clint Eastwood. I'm also here because the AFI is paying me $20 million and $3, making me the highest paid megalomaniacal boy king in all of Babylon. Don't get me wrong, Clint. I wanted to be here. But my quote is my quote. If I lower it for you, I have to do it for everybody. Not many people know this, but Clint Eastwood was one of my first supporters in the business. At the time, I was a struggling actor, and I was cast to play the part of a crazed, drug-fiend rock star named Johnny Squares in the Dirty Harry film, The Deadpool. For the audition, sure, you can apply for that. All right. For my audition, I was put on tape singing an Alice Cooper song. I went completely nuts, tearing up the office, doing contortions, spitting into the camera. Afterwards, I wondered if I had gone too far. In those days, I still worried about that sort of thing. But when I finally met Clint, he just said to me, I love that tape. And I'd show it to all my friends. Naturally, I was elated. I wanted to do the best possible job that I could do for this man. You know, the first day of shooting, I showed up with all these wild ideas. I said, I have a ton of ideas that I want to try out, Mr. Eastwood, if you don't mind. You know, I was expecting a little bit of resistance, but Clint just looked at me and looked at the producer, David Valdez, and said, well, maybe we'll just turn the camera on and let him go.
Let him go. That's it, Laurie. That's it. That's it.
I improvised for about 2 hours after that.
Let him turn the camera on and let it go.
That's what we watched that for? Okay. Well, okay, I'll do that. Okay, the idea that Lawrence had with that was because I just did a little brainstorm off the cuff, ad lib thing right before we got on, and because I was excited, and I am very excited because we've been doing this hangout thing for getting pretty close to a year and a half. Lawrence and I have been all over the place with trying to understand all of these aspects that didn't seem to coincide with one another. But the more things that we do research that seemingly have no connection to everything else suddenly are starting to click together. And one of the things that I guess I'm kind of good at is putting puzzles together and figuring out puzzles. And so I'm seeing some puzzle pieces here that I would like to throw out there before we get too far along on the simulation theory, hologram, how many things are simulated kind of thing. And that is, months ago, we discovered this, sun in Antarctica. And that has been a sticking point with Flat Earth for a very long time, in that if you believe in the circling sun model, especially the AE/Gleason's map, where, the sun circles between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer and back again, it would be impossible for there to be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, especially the sun going south of south. South of south means any of the bases that are on the perimeter of so-called Antarctica show their cameras pointing south, and the sun goes south of them. And that would literally be impossible, not only on the AE map, but the reason why we're seeing that is because that's highly possible that that's the simulated sun. Now, we're going to start talking about the simulated sun in this episode. So if you were the Globers and you introduced Flat Earth as a PSYOP, and you introduced the AE and the Gleason map as a PSYOP misdirection to get those who started to investigate Flat Earth for the reasons of they started seeing the proofs that the Earth is flat, the lack of curvature, horizon being at eye level all the time, all kinds of anomalies that won't fit with the globe. It was automatic that they were going to start seeing these things anyway, especially with the use of tech and cameras and telescopes and P900s and all these other techs that we have. So you would need to simulate that the sun was going in a circle around Antarctica in its summertime in order for not to get caught with your pants down on the globe, first thing. But second thing, to throw your own glitch in the idea that the sun only circles the most south at the Tropic of Capricorn. So having said that, there's another reason. There's always more than one reason for any of the anomalies that they create, okay? And for example, if you could make a simulated sun, and we're going to show you that in this episode, that simulated sun would not only produce light, but necessary light for the inhabitation of an area, okay? You can't live where there's no sunlight, but it also would allow for heat because light coming through the atmosphere at this intensity would create heat. Heat and light would probably cause global warming, and global warming would then, in fact, allow you to inhabit areas of the Antarctic that would be farther south than anything we've been able to inhabit before. What other reason would they create an image of the sun going south of south? And it doesn't just go south of south, it goes out there, okay? So we've been trying to put together all kinds of pyramid angles and all kinds of refractions and reflections in our mind of how they're using the sun. You've got people like Globebusters and Morgile and Jaron saying things like apparent sun, and there's all kinds of excuses being thrown out for what we're seeing, okay, what we're observing.
CG modeling, including the atmospheric refraction, just as they have it tabled in the science textbooks.
Hold on there, Ronnie, because I'm going to give you an opportunity to play that, okay? And so when you start to add up all of the things that don't fit on both the flat earth or the globe, and you open your mind to the degree that you're able to cross-reference things that seemingly don't go together, now they can go together. If you can open your mind to the concept of not only might we be living in a simulation, we don't know the degree of the simulation. We don't know if only the atmosphere, the environment, the Pac-Man theory, we don't know how much of that is simulation. We don't know if we are simulated. We don't know if we're energy spirits inside of a meat suit, you know, living a game. So if you can't open your mind to that, then and this causes cognitive dissonance inside of you, you probably ought to just click off right now. But if you're curious to follow where the rabbit trail goes, then stay tuned. And these people on this panel are going to introduce some new ideas that go along with flat Earth. They're not contrary to it. So that was my rant. So Ronnie, why don't you go ahead and play that clip, at least the sound of it, so that we can hear what words we're talking about are being repeated.
Oh, well, it was just a clip from the Glowbusters show. Jason Awake Souls basically presented the Wolfie data of the sun rising south of east and setting south of west, doing the anti-circular AE proposed circling sun route. And
well, that would be part of the Faraday effect.
I'm getting really sick of hearing people relatively ad hoc away data, and I guess it's more importantly, if I guess we could go ahead with other people's stuff. I was trying to make a soundbite of just because basically the Morgal is saying that, well, science textbooks are right when it comes to refraction because it helps me explain the dogma of my circling sun.
Correct. Okay. The next thing next presenter that I would like to jump in there will be Jason, who's going to share with us some research that he's been working on. He is also we're going to have to come up with a name for ourselves that are flat earthers with a clause, and the clause is we're not non-AE, non-Gleason, something, non-Gleason flat earthers. I don't know what to call us, but it's something to think about and consider. Jason.
Well, hello. Yeah, there's a few things that I wanted to cover today, and I just really haven't gotten the chance to explain the reasons why I think this is a simulation. And there's just a few points that I want to get through today. I'd like to talk about the photographic evidence that we're seeing of the closeness. The sun, the moon, the stars.
Can I interrupt just for a second? Jason, you're lagging a little bit on your video and your audio, so you might have too many things open for you to have enough bandwidth.
The camera does that for me, sorry.
Okay, so maybe turn the camera off and go ahead and do a screen present. And you can talk over the screen present thing without a problem. Okay.
Yeah, so is this better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The real life photographic evidence of how close things are. Because this is an important factor in breaking down the models. How close the sun is, how close the moon is, how close the stars are. Also the angles, because I am a flat earther. It's a flat plane. When you look out to the horizon, it always rises to your eye level. Characteristics of a flat plane. But you guys know, and I've known for a while, that the sun and moon can't be doing circles. And one of the big factors in that is the angles. that we're seeing the sunrise, the sunset, the moonrise, the moonset. There's another factor in the simulation thing that I haven't talked about before that I'd just like to mention, and that's the Mandela Effect and how that ties into it. And then I mentioned on Globebusters that I had studied non-duality when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, and there's a few things that tie in. That's actually the first time that I realized that this is a simulation. So that happened before I started studying the flat Earth. And then I do have a new map that I want to present that is going to be the way that I'm going to be modeling things up on. And I think that should be really interesting for us to take a look at that.
Okay. So, why don't you do a little bit of, we can go and look at the presentation that you did on Globebusters recently, or any of the other videos of your photographic evidence on your channel, which is Awake Souls.
Yeah.
But for the sake of brevity, why don't you give us some of the reasons, visual reasons, why you are entertaining or leaning on simulation?
Yeah, well, I've got it's less than 5-minute video from QNV. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but what he does is he has some incredible high altitude balloon footage with the sunspot below. And one of the problems that I've always had with the high altitude balloon footage is I didn't know where the footage was taken, and I had no landmarks. He's got some footage that he's got the landmarks and he's got the distances spelled out. And when you take a look at that and see just how close that is, and where it was shot in Norway, it becomes obvious that there's no way that even at the closest point, so I don't know when the footage was shot, but even at the closest point on the popular flat Earth AE model at the Tropic of Cancer, it's still obvious that sunspot, the sun can't be over the Tropic of Cancer, and that would be the best case scenario for the popular AE model. So if you want, we can take a look at that. That's just the general concept behind it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, when we feel like we want to jump in and discuss, you can pause it or end it, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
so what you're going to show is the sun not doing what the AE map says it does, or what the globe says it does, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So I'm going to application window.
Ronnie, does he need to turn his camera back on in order for the application window to show?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't know why.
All right,
it makes the sound much better.
All right,
that's all.
Yeah. Okay. No, I see black. We see black screen, so you might have to do it again.
Okay.
And I am presenting you, so.
Okay.
And I'm just going to be quiet and mute myself because I got a phone call coming in.
Try entire screen, Jay.
Yeah, that's what I've always used before. The application never worked for me. You seeing that now?
No, not yet. I think. Okay.
Let me try.
There you go. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Proceed
Okay.
on forward, sir.
All right. So this is a video from QNV, and take this volume down on it a little.
Distance of the sun, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, telling us how the sun is supposedly 93 million miles away when it's actually only a few thousand miles away.
All right, so this is what I was talking about as far as the
lower the volume if you.
okay. So by having the visuals, the reference points, and knowing the actual distances, and then you see the hot spot on the water right there. And he showed you what the distance to the horizon at that elevation is going to be. There's just no way that the sun can be doing circles between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. This is happening in Norway. And that sunspot's just within miles of the, local miles, 60 miles. Even at this high elevation, to see the sun up in Norway, this is a big deal. Another channel, Flat Earth Photography, recently took some plane footage. He's shooting out the window, and he was traveling from, I believe it was, I think it was in Ireland to Central Europe. He's filming out the window, and he's seeing these sunspots on the water right below him. So that right there shows how close it is.
Jason, there was one point I noticed when I watched that video, and I don't know how much difference it would make, but the horizon calculator that QMF used was one that is specific to the globe. There are no horizon calculators out there for a flat Earth. They're all based on the globe, so the figures may not be the same. So that's just, I don't know what it is on the globe, but it's something that he may need to reconsider.
Yeah, well, on the globe, one of the things that I've brought out recently is that so I can stop sharing now. I just wanted to take a look at those sunspots, how close they are within the 60 miles.
But wait,
but back to
D lights.
Back to your point, Lawrence.
Small.
Yeah, the mathematics doesn't work on a sphere at all. It's actually one of the things that we need to take a look into. Is that you take a look at spherical trigonometry, there are no parallel lines. A squared plus b squared does not equal c squared, and the angles of a triangle do not add up to 180 degrees on a sphere. So actually the only thing that really does work is plane geometry, and that's where being able to calculate the distance to a horizon, we can do that. Our math works for that. It's on the sphere that they come up with these false equations.
Yeah, I find this really fascinating, Jason, because using 345 as a builder myself, when I square buildings, to find out now that when I reduce that 345, because you're generally taught that you can increase the measurement as long as you want, and the 90, the squareness of the building will stay. But when you explain to me the fact that the fraction of reducing the 345 creates basically a squared plus b squared becomes invalid, and an error code shows up in reality, and I think this is a huge piece of data.
Yeah, well, we're trying to come up with maps and figure out the correct distances. And we better make sure that we're doing it with correct math as well, because that's one of the big flaws with the balls, that they have us using Euclidean geometry on a sphere, but that's not possible. But they say that because the Earth is so big, that you can treat it like a plane at small local levels. So you guys, Lori, Lawrence.
I just muted your camera again because you were lagging. Maybe it was just for me. I'm not really sure, but Lawrence, you're muted.
Am I unmuted? Bloody mute.
Yes.
I'm unmuted. Right, Jason, this is concerned with today's breaking news because there was two things that were always puzzling me about this sun in Antarctica, and this is the bit of the puzzle I've put together today. So I'm just going to show you the 1 minute clip of the last 48 hours at Casey Station and see if you can spot the two things that, apart from the black dot, the two things that seem out of the ordinary on this little clip. So let's share the screen again. I'll bring up Casey once more for the umpteenth time. There we go. Let's full screen. Okay, so let's watch this together. And wait for the bit where the sun comes over. It comes over somewhere about 10 o'clock at night, something like that. All right, so that was the first run. But what I noticed was that the sun's moving far too fast, and normally when it comes over, the brightness is far more intense than the normal sun. So let's just let it run through for a second time, another 20 seconds.
That would be part of the Faraday effect.
Oh my God! Is there someone?
It's by refringence.
And also probably atmospheric refraction down at that latitude. But
hey, look at the size of that. You know, so I think I agree with you, Larry. That is a simulation of sorts there, but they got it wrong. Look, I mean, look at that.
Absolutely would explain.
It looks like one of those Second World War mines, doesn't it?
That, and all you have to do to kind of get a picture in your mind of that is to think about some of the Ferrocell videos that have been put out.
Yeah, Ferrocell. No, Bob. I'm sorry, Bob.
No, Bob.
No, I'm sorry. I don't quite agree with you. The Faraday effect.
Absolutely
No,
would explain
come
that.
on.
And all you have to do to kind of get a picture in your mind of that
How?
is.
Are you gonna go back to Einstein and relativity, Bob? Come on, no. There's got to be something else. It can't
That
be
would be part of the Faraday effect.
No. Okay. So you guys can.
Thank you for a little dose of reality there. We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard from John yet. John, you got to pipe in so we at least can hear your voice and know that you actually are there.
I am here. I'm stuck in the matrix, waking up, still waking up. But hi, everybody.
Okay, there you are.
They all go. They all fall down like dominoes, one by one.
Yes, they do. When you start to connect the dots, they turn into dominoes, and then you can just knock them down. And that's finally where we're getting to after all this time. This finding the domino effect, and it's not Faraday; it's domino.
Yeah, may I add something actually intelligent to the conversation, please?
Okay.
So what me and Jason, and actually it was Lawrence who got the blue screen of death hacked when we were discussing these very same topics, we started thinking, so if our compasses don't point to Polaris, okay, and which, you know, again, demonstrably destroys the circling Maru AE map, because obviously if you follow your Polaris or magnetic compass, you're going to end up somewhere else. Why would you not draw a map corresponding with grid lines to where the compass points to? And, what do you think, Lawrence? What do you see with this?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, the whole point of a compass is to get from A to B in the correct direction. So the compass itself, if it's attracted to magnetism, then the compass works. You don't have to make any adjustments for magnetic north, because presumably that's where it's pointing anyway. And if there is a magnetic north, then it would mean that all the other cardinal directions are going to be out. So you're going to have a magnetic east, west, and south as well. It's a nonsense. And I was looking into it yesterday, and I thought, when did all this magnetic north start? And it started out just a few years after Copernicus, in the same era. And there's a whole book on it. You can download it, a PDF. I haven't got it in front of me now. But it's just another whole load of pseudo bollocks, made up stuff, and obviously to support the recently introduced globe model by Copernicus to fudge something. Now, I don't know what the magnetic bit is for, but it's to fudge something that doesn't quite work with the globe model, and that's another mystery that will probably come to light soon, when, you know, it's like an unconnected piece of information, but something else comes in and we join the dots together.
Yep.
Okay, so if in fact, Faraday effect, there's no, if this is a simulation, okay, and we're going to go with that premise just for the purpose of research, all right? It's not to do a reverse hypothesis with ad hoc reverse engineered theories to fill the void. It's for the purpose of what anomalies on the flat Earth plane and the globe do not make sense on either one, and cannot be explained by either science or pseudoscience. And that's the direction that I've personally been going in over the last few weeks, since I decided finally once and for all I was going to investigate simulation, because I've personally tried everything I can to avoid it for the purpose of not letting it be a handicap, not letting it be a crutch to compensate for the other things that I could not explain. So go ahead, Jason, with any other simulation theory, photography, or evidence that you have.
Yeah, so the first thing was photographic evidence of closeness. So I've used other things before, but today we looked at sunspots, because that shows how close it is. Now, the angles of the sun and the moon is another big thing for me. This is when I started going against the popular flat Earth model. It was just before the equinox, and I was doing some research. I started seeing that the sun was rising east and it was setting west, 90 degrees to 70 degrees everywhere on Earth, all locations, the farthest north location, the farthest south location. And then when you consider that with the sun and moon doing circles, it can't rise east and set west for everyone. And then the research went beyond that a little bit further, where I started looking beyond the equinox towards what we're almost at right now, the winter solstice, where the angles become extremely out of whack. So one of the things I'd like to do right now is just go to timeanddate.com. And so this is where you guys can't see it. Do you want me to do a screen share, or you just want to tell me what I'm seeing? Tell you what I'm seeing.
Screen share, please, yes.
Okay.
And I know Lawrence will be able to add to this as well, because he's helped me with a few. Okay, you're good. You're.
So is this? Does it need to be presented by Lori, or? Is it, no,
I believe you're good to go. You're good to go.
It's on screen. You're fine. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so this is Eureka, Canada, up a little bit north of you, Ronnie. And so I have it back in October, because when you scroll down here, you'll see that as of October 20th, the sun has been down all day long.
Down all day.
So, down all day. Now, if you look at the last day that the sun did rise, look at those angles. The rise at 169 degrees and a set at 190 degrees. So its solar noon declination was -1 degree. The day before, it was only 0.2 degrees. And look at those angles in October that this happened. So it's been down all day ever since. Now, if you take a look at what's happening in an extremely south city, here's the Ushuaia, Argentina, and here we are at the 18th. It's setting 135 degrees south. or it's rising 135 degrees south, setting 225 degrees, and its solar noon declination is 58.6 degrees. So the winter solstice is just a few days from now on the 21st, and it's solar noon declination 58.6. So that's the highest it's ever going to get for them. But if you take a look at those angles, those are severely south of east, severely south of west. The sun and moon angles. One other thing to take a look at is Sao Paulo, Brazil is right at the Tropic of Cancer. So you can see that on the winter solstice, its solar noon declination is 89.9 degrees. They're just a touch what we call south of the Tropic of Capricorn, but they pretty much do get the sun traveling directly overhead there. If you look at their angles, it is rising 116 degrees south, setting 244 degrees south. So taking a look at these three samplings of what's happening with the angles makes the popular flat earth model with the sun and moon doing circles really impossible. So the globe model I know isn't true. I know that there's no curvature, and the popular flat earth model doesn't work. So it leads me to look for other possibilities as well. If you guys want to say anything about that, that's the second part of why I think we're in a simulation.
No, go ahead. I definitely have stuff to add. What do you think of this, Lawrence?
Yeah, go ahead.
You get it?
Oh, the angles, yeah. Well, I was just trying to bring up some calc, and it looks like my computer's been hacked because it won't let me bring it up.
Oh, no.
It's timing out, and I haven't got any windows of them. But I before, in between the last show and this show, I just took a look at the North Pole and the South Pole at the 90 degrees. And if you go on SolCalc and look at on the left-hand side at the solstices, the winter and summer solstices, the sun is at an angle of 23.4 all day. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it stays at the same height all day. And then the reverse happens at the opposite pole in their summer. And that's something else to go in the melting pot. You know, if assuming SolCalc's information is correct, then that takes some explaining for me. But I can't show it on here. If you want, somebody wants to bring SunCalc up, somebody else can bring it up. You can show the audience that it stays at, I think it's 23.45, and it stays like that all day for quite some time.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also, you can use the degrees height of the sun to generate your location, right? You were explaining to me, Lawrence, when you minus off of the latitude.
You're muted, Lawrence. Okay. Boy.
Lines of latitude are directly connected to the angle of the sun, or the maximum angle of the sun during the day. So if you go to Antarctica in their summer, then the maximum height of the sun is 23.4. If you move 10 degrees south, the maximum height is going to be 23.4 plus 10. And like where you are, Laurie, in your summer, your maximum sun angle is going to be virtually directly overhead, not about 89 degrees, and it will vary. So when the equinox comes, it will be back over the equator, so the angle will have dropped 23.4, and in your winter it will have dropped a further 23.4. So if you look at the sun angle where you are in conjunction with the day, you could actually work out what latitude you're at. And I presume that these ancient mariners were using their sextants to work out the sun angle at noon to work out what latitude they were at. So they would know how far they were progressing north or south by the sun angle at noon. So that little jigsaw's fitted back together for me, you know, and maybe we can put together some kind of chart.
Did you break SunCalc, Lawrence? Because it won't load. It's
it won't load for me. Somebody's hacked it. It just won't load.
Won't load for me either.
Yeah, I know. Well, somebody hacked into ours last night, didn't they, Ronnie, when we were on Skype?
That's interesting about it's, you know, here's one of the tools that proves the things that we're saying, and now we can't access it. So,
well, you know, we can always
just another clue of the simulation theory. We got our code is being hacked right now, so that we can show you what we're talking about.
Bob might know.
The Faraday effect is a very demonstrable effect. And within it, you know, it also has characteristics of circular birefringence.
Circular birefringence. There's the answer. That's where we're going.
That's the answer to the apparent sun.
So, yeah, the apparent sun is no different than just saying that it's 93 million miles away.
All right, so I have something to screen share before we get off this topic. And let's see. I will show you what I'm talking about. All right. And let me just, I don't want to make this full screen because then I can't manage to see all my other things.
Which shows the big sun. It shows the simulator. And I realize that there are sun simulators on the planet that they use to simulate the sun in underground bunkers, so forth and so on.
Can you guys hear that?
But everybody's watched this video. Everybody's mirrored this video, copied this video, and had their thoughts on this video. But it appears that for the first time, one of the large New World Order companies, Boeing in particular, has actually shown this for the first time without a doubt. And it's a huge case of predictive programming. A subscriber sent me the link to this video a couple of days ago. I showed this yesterday in the live stream, and I'm going to show it to you right now. We weren't wrong. All those people that believe that they have a sun simulating satellite or machine were not wrong, because Boeing actually puts it right out there. Several people have put out videos showing how they could cloak such an object, and I believe a lot of us have actually caught photos of it or video of it. Stuff like this video right here. Things like this are just really, really odd to me, because then you see images like this. Now, this is an old Freemasonic drawing, and it shows exactly the same exact image that we're seeing in real life. Exactly. You see that right there? Directly in the center of this sun image, the Freemasonic sun image, with their two pillars, Boaz and Jachin. It's right there. It's identical, absolutely identical. Absolutely identical. And a lot of people have said that's the digital camera. It has a built-in feature that causes this effect. The only problem is we've tested a variety of cameras. The Nikon P900 zoomed in absolutely to the max, 2,000 millimeters on the sun, and we have no apparition. Various iPhones, various small Kodak waterproof cameras, so forth and so on. And again, this matches the diagram, the Freemasonic diagram, exactly. But that still isn't the meat of this video. This patent was just one of many that was sent to me almost a year ago. And now we're finally seeing one of the big companies that would actually make it, one of the aerospace industry, actually show this in a video of their own. And I'm going to show that to you right now. This is a video made by Boeing. This is on their Boeing YouTube channel, and they're showing things in the future. Exactly 100 years, 2116, in the future. Now, things like this we've already seen. Exactly. Very happy. There's outer space. There's the space elevator, which is absolutely ridiculous, but we talked about that over a year ago as well. This is what I want to draw your attention to. They call this a solar simulator satellite, an SSS. This is what we've been telling you about for the longest time, and now Boeing's actually showing what it looks like. The reason I believe these are already in production is because they wouldn't show what it looks like if it wasn't, if they already didn't have the patent for it. These are 2 or perhaps 3 solar simulation satellites is what they call them. And how about that? Right down to the hexagons. How about that? You see the diagram? The sun is over here. It's reflecting its sunlight into this mirror, which goes through this satellite down to another mirror, and then it comes down right here. There it is. Boom. Slowly bringing it out. We've been telling you about this for over a year. I believe these are what we're seeing in the sky. And I asked Anthony Patch during a live stream, why would we need these? Because 20 years ago, the sun was right over us. The sun was yellow. We were all familiar with it. And now, for some reason, it appears that we've been bumped out of our orbit, or somebody's been fooling with the sun to the point, maybe some black magic. We don't know, because these guys are constantly doing their magical rituals right in our faces. Remember the beginning of this year? This is an incredibly satanic ritual, so much so that the mainstream media actually pointed out that this was an incredibly satanic ritual. You dig what I'm saying? These guys are coming out into the light. They're not hiding it anymore. This entire Gothard Tunnel ritual was basically celebrating them opening the pit, piercing the veil, and allowing Satan to come out of his bonds. I don't know how else to say that. But this entire thing was incredibly, incredibly satanic. Just this part of it. But again, I digress. These solar simulators are incredibly real, and we've been telling you about this for almost a year now. The biggest question that stands is, what happened to our sun? Where is our sun? Because I can look outside with binoculars right at the sun, and it doesn't harm my eyes. That's not how it works. You notice anything similar? You see what I mean? We were right, people. We were right the whole time. And this is basically them telling us we were right, because bear in mind, they wouldn't even show diagrams like this if these weren't already in existence, patented, and locked up. They never leak diagrams before they have the patent. And we called this out for what it was before this came out. This video is from the beginning. Let me check. Actually, this video has been out longer than my solar simulator video, so they knew. That's the only.
Okay, so
Lori, could I play a short clip to go with your clip?
Sure.
It's really quick. I'll just screen share it right now, and then we'll get into it. Let me just pull the tab out like he taught me. Okay. It goes right along with yours. Okay, are you my screen sharing? Not yet, right?
Not yet.
1 second. Okay, here we go. It should be screen sharing. Okay, ready? You guys can see it?
Hexagons, 7-panel hexagonal light in the sky, an artificial sun, the hexagon hypothesis. If you're new to this video series, please see past videos, or else this really is not going to make sense to you. Everybody else, this is what you're looking for. This footage is from April 7th, 2016, this past Thursday. So I play it once through at 2x speed, and then I go through it again, but I stop it at all the places where you can see it best. I'm sorry about all the shaking and the brightness adjustments. I really didn't know what I was looking for at the time. I'm not a particularly skilled videographer, so I take a lot of footage from the sky and I review it later and put various filters on it. So here comes the section where I start freezing the video when you can best see it. I've got to emphasize the fact that you really need to see the past videos for this to make sense.
So basically all I wanted to add to the conversation was that there are people recording what seems to look like a hexagonal shaped sun, and it's not just Richie from Boston, and it could be a bleed over from the simulation, or the fallen angels could be trying to recreate their own throne or anything like that.
Yeah, on a few weeks back, Ronnie, I showed on the screen, I magnified the that thing in Antarctica, and when you magnify it up, it was coming out as a hexagonal shape.
Well, how many times have I said over the last year or so, Lawrence, when we've talked about the sun, that I see a hexagon sun in still photography taken from videos all the time. And there's been a couple of times when it's been octagons appearing, but that's the rays coming out of it, not necessarily the shape of the sun. But so when you connect the dots with the black sun dot that we saw in Antarctica and couldn't make any sense out of, and then you saw the fact that it's at a 23.4 degree angle, which we showed last week. Lawrence, you probably need to mute. There's somebody making noise in the background. And the fact that the sun is appearing with these sort of odd halos around it. Some people call them sundogs. That I don't remember specifically seeing those ever when I was a child. That's connected in some way with rainbows or something, but go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, no, I've been photographing upside down sundogs. What they're saying, it's the polar vortex and the Faraday effect causing the reflection of the sunlight off of the raindrops or whatever by refrigerants. But the interesting thing here is, Jason and QN Fee and Flat Earth Photography, and there's a bunch of channels out there. Jason, could you add anything to here? What are you seeing?
I saw the video that you guys saw. I've never seen anything like that before when I've been recording. So the way I approach my research is I try to stick to the things that I can observe myself, and those are the things that I use in my process of understanding reality. When it comes to this other footage, I don't know who to trust. I don't know if the footage is trustable. I know that there could be a lot of agendas as to the reason why somebody would produce something that suggests that. So until I've seen evidence of myself, it's probably not one of the topics that I'm going to really concern my research with.
Well, the way that I look at these connect the dots things is I look at everything, and I don't automatically throw it out unless it's quite obvious that it has been photo manipulated or photoshopped or green screened or one of the other myriad of technologies that we have now that is in the hands of common, ordinary people. And so, but it's kind of like Where's Waldo is part of the game, but then the other part of the game is which one of these things does not go with the other things.
Well, Lori, the avenue that you were going with, the use of creating the reflecting fake sun in the south and maybe even possibly lighting other parts of the plane. I think that was really brilliant when you came up with those topics. Well,
thanks. It just was a natural progression in my mind, and perhaps my mind works differently than others because I'm a puzzle person.
Yeah, I want to give my say.
Sorry, Lawrence, I was muting you.
I was just, we were going to go around the panel and say what the biggest giveaways for you were, that it could possibly be a simulation. Mm-hmm. And the biggest one for me is the fact that, you know, we're all, I presume, in agreement that whether we are a simulation or we're in a physical world, everything is real. It was the simulation or the world itself was created by somebody, and if you look at the size of the Earth, it's huge. Whoever built, if it was physical and somebody had to physically build it and put all these features on it, it would take a long time. But we would have to be microbes in comparison in size to those who actually built it. And those that built it, if it was a physical construct, it would need, you know, and it's going to last for thousands of years. They're going to have to maintain it and you know, and update it and modify it. Well, I haven't seen any evidence of janitors, you know, doing things at the Earth. And if you think, if somebody was well capable of building something so big, if they have the power to do that, they could just as easily simulate it. So that is probably the biggest, you know, the biggest one for me as to why it could be a simulation, because of the very scale of it, because you've got all the detail there. I mean, the you know, to create all these details, mountains and rivers and streams and forests and people, and it's just so vast to actually physically create all of it. It would mean that the creators of it, presumably, they would be in a bigger world outside our world and creating us in a certain place within their world. And the alternative to that is that the simulation is created from within the Earth, but that's not something that's been discussed yet. Is it an internal construct of a simulation, or has it been done externally? And if it's done externally, that means there's world or worlds outside of where it is we are. But if we are in a simulation, then, you know, we can't get out of this place. You know, there is no escape from it, because we're like Pac-Man on the screen. The only thing he can do is go off the left-hand side and come back on the right. Pac-Man can't come and sit around the table with me and share a cup of coffee. He can just do whatever he wants on the screen, move up, down, left and right. But he can't go into the third dimension where we are. And presumably we can't go into the fourth dimension, which may well be where this simulation is being run from.
But we can express it, Lawrence, and we're going to try.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, think of it this way too. Think of it this way too. We don't know what part is simulated and what part isn't. It's obvious that there's simulations going on. They have given us all kinds of predictive programming about simulation. Everything from Transformer movies to you know, The Simpsons, to, I mean, all over the place. Yeah. So why would they go there if you know, if they didn't think it was funny to throw it in our faces? Because that's what they do about everything else. I mean, so there's more to this than either A or B. Either it's a bioorganic life with an AI in control, to for all the weirdness and the chaos and the Mandela effect and all the other things that don't seem to make any sense. Okay, but there's also the fact that we could all be just completely simulated. Everything's a program.
Could I jump in?
Sure.
Well, it's I remember hearing, like, when I first joined your podcast, you would talk about, I like to use the term mechanical flesh instead of meat suit. It just sounds better. So if you could imagine that once our technology reaches the point where we can capably and fully demonstrate all of the functions of our reality in a simulation, we therefore could actually create one. And really all we are is just bits of information in the smallest to the largest sense. And for me, that's what the simulation theory, it crosses over from, because people like, well, you'll hear someone from Glowbusters like Jaron, not to pick on anybody in particular. You can think of many of your favorite YouTube flat earthers fall into this category. But it is still physical. It is the information, the software is what is running and is real. The the flesh suits are just the computers, and we just don't have the technology quite yet, or maybe we do, to simulate the body. And then the software is a collective. It's all connected. That's how we all interact. And I believe that there's so much more to this. You can't just, it's like having a repeating map. You can't just say Pac-Man. Simulation theory doesn't just mean that it's a simulation. There are physical attributes to it that they transcend everything. And that's what the rendering issues of the sun, the moon, the one face of the moon, the fact that I can clearly see with my naked eye clouds in front of and behind the moon clearly tells me that it's being rendered in my circle of sight. And when I put all of these things together, there's only a model and people way smarter than me left to put this together in a presentable way. But, you know, straightening the grid to the magnetic north is a must. You know, making things simpler. Why do we have to have nautical miles? Lawrence was talking about it the other day. Shouldn't we make life simpler? And that's, you know, really why the simulation theory works for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I try to really stay away from speculating on the more difficult topics like everybody wants to address right away. Everybody goes, well, why? And, you know, the question whether or not there's a physical aspect where something's being rendered beyond that, or if everything's being rendered. These are difficult questions that I don't think we're in a position to be able to answer those questions yet. But I still think there is enough of what we call physical evidence to realize that what we've led to believe is the physical world is paradoxical or irrational, that you get to situations where it can't be, you know, there's a physical conflict. And so that was the first point on distances that we're seeing stuff. The second point on the angles that we're seeing stuff. And maybe we could go into the third point of the Mandela effect if you guys want.
Sure, why not? Because it's all connected anyway.
So I'm not sure where you guys stand on it. Do you guys have you experienced Mandela effects?
I think we all have experienced Mandela effects. I just don't go by that term.
The Berenstein Bears one.
Okay. I think that term is probably the PSYOP term, just like flat earth is the PSYOP term, just like Pizzagate is the PSYOP term. Those are the terms that these gatekeepers use, just like fake news came out of nowhere and then suddenly it's on everybody's tip of their tongue. And that's not likely or probably even possible given a completely grassroots, you know, natural effect. Things just don't go viral like that. Okay. So Mandela effect, in my opinion, was introduced so that the dialogue or the narrative could be controlled. But there is such a thing. I would rather prefer glitch, glitch as in glitch in the Matrix more closely. And, you know, yes, I have things that are a different memory, and I think it's residual memory. I think of it more like the cached version on the internet of something. If you have the cached version, it's still there, it's still real, it's still relevant. But if you don't, and they were able to wipe something out completely, then it no longer exists in its former form. So history has been dealt with that way. Our own personal memories, things like deja vu, things like past life memories, things like regress memories, those to me are being lumped in with Mandela effect, and they are not the same.
Yeah, well, so when the Mandela effect came out, I've always got my finger on the pulse of whatever the hot conspiracy theory is.
Right, we all do.
When it came out, I started looking into it, and there's quite a few of them that hit me really strong where I have strong memories of them. The Luke, I am your father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I came home from school. We were one of the first ones to have a Betamax VHS, and used to watch the movie after school with my brother every day. I mean, probably watched it hundreds of times, and we would jump around on sofas, and I was 5 years older than him, so when I'd pin him down, I'd say, "Luke, I am your father." And so I know that nobody's gonna say that it's not that way. I drive a Ford F-150 a long time. I know that there was no pigtail in the Ford logo. My wife has a Volvo, and when I first met her, she her car didn't have that mail sign in the logo. I know that.
Okay, well, how do you explain then, okay, with regards to the differences in memory versus reality, okay? Some people have a different memory than other people, and then, you know, they'll say, well, I came from a different parallel universe or something like that to explain it away. There's one thing for it to be a difference in memory. It's another thing for it to be a difference in reality. And there are people who absolutely have, like, say, an old Snow White movie from a long time ago, an actual video, and they've owned it for years and years, and they go back and they play it because they hear of the Mandela Effect of magic mirror versus mirror mirror, and they go back and play theirs, and gosh darn it, it says magic mirror, and they know that it didn't. And so did the movie change? Did it physically change? Because that would be a physical change in their opinion, or a printed book like Berenstain versus Berenstein.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to take it next. So
okay.
those first things that I mentioned were things that could be explained away with memory, you know, non-physical type changes. Although the logos on Ford and Volvo, those are physical changes, but the Bible's the big one for me, and that's because I mentioned in the Globebuster shows, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and they are big Bible students. I've read the Bible many, many times, and with the amount of hours in church that I've had, I know the scriptures very, very well. And I know it was lion and the lamb. I know that it was wineskins and not bottles. I know that the 10 Commandments were written on tablets and not tables. And there's a new one that came out maybe like a week or two ago, and that is my name is now in the Bible. Jason's in Scripture 5 times. And so I grew up, and my brother's name is Adam, and I remember asking my parents, how come you didn't give me a Bible name? And, you know, my brother got, you know, a big Bible name. And so I sort of asked the question a little backhanded to him. And so the answer came back, well, we just liked the sound of it. And I said, well, did you know that my name's in the Bible? And they're like, no, your name's not in the Bible. I'm like, yeah, go check out Acts. And so my name is now in the Bible, and I know it wasn't. My parents, who have, you know, been Jehovah's Witnesses for 50 years, didn't know that my name was in the Bible. So this is a physical change. It shows up in old Bibles. You can take a 1611, you know, that's paper and ink, and now all of a sudden my name's in the Bible 5 times, and that right there is one of those short circuit moments where, when you consider and ask yourself, how is that possible?
Right.
That a physical thing can change like that. The explanation comes from it being a simulation, and it has nothing to do with time travel. I've heard a lot of people try to explain this away with time travel, that we have some sort of time machine and somebody went back in the past and changed this. Right. It has nothing to do with time travel. It's a physical change. So the way I understand it is like on a computer, on a Word document, you can do a find replace, where you find all instances of something, and then you replace, and all those instances are replaced.
Right.
There's I had one of QNF's videos I had posted on my channel, and he had a song in it that had a copy was creating issues. And so I went into the creator studio of YouTube, and it showed that it had that copyright on there, and that it was going to be monetized by somebody else, and it offered the option to remove it. And I thought to myself, how is this possible? Because, you know, this was a video that he made in video editing software where he has audio of some World War II type news stuff, and then he had this song playing over it. So that all got rendered and compiled together in a video that he uploaded to YouTube, and YouTube offered me the option to take the song out of it. And I thought to myself,
that's crazy.
I'm like, what's going to happen? So I hit remove, and it took the song out of it and completely unaffected the old World War II footage where there were people speaking and sound effects and all that. So to be able to pull that out demonstrates the power of the computer to be able to do this type of find replace algorithm.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with adding people and subtracting people from videos or photographs or anything. You know, we're only aware of the technology that they've given us to buy as consumers. And we're many generations behind the abilities that they have that we don't yet have. We're still excited by Tang from the space program, when the space program itself, as far as I'm concerned, the part we know about, is nothing more than one of those fake storefronts in the old Western movies, like I was talking about earlier. I don't know if that was before we got started or not, but go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, I was just going to say something which, you know, it's going off slightly at a tangent, but, well, a couple of things really. So a simulation could have been created by thought, and people will say, well, you can't create things by thought. But if we all took a look around our room now and where you are, and everything that you see in that room started off as a thought in your head or your partner's head. So thoughts do become things. Words are magic. Spelling is spells. And if you remember 6 months ago, I did the quinoa test. And here we go again. So this little jar here is the one. It's totally unaffected. And it says love, gratitude, and thank you.
Are you kidding me? That's the same quinoa?
Yeah, love that. Now we look at the other one. And if you can see the mold, can you see the mold that's growing in that?
Hold it.
See the mold?
Hold it steady in the screen, please.
Yeah, I'll put the thing on. Can you see it now? There's an awful stench to it. Can you see it?
Oh, no. Yes.
Can you see it, Larry?
Yeah.
Can you see the mold? Yeah.
Move the camera lower.
Lower.
Or opposite. There you go. There. Oh, that's nasty.
Oh, I'll put the lid back on. So there's an awful stink coming out of the other one. The other one, when I open this one up, it doesn't. It smells sweet as the day I put it in. And that one says
words
love,
matter.
Love, gratitude, and thank you. This
How
one
many
says.
Months did you put the date on that, Lawrence?
It was. I think it was one of our shows in June, and this one says hatred. You make me sick. I will kill you. And that's what those words have done to this quinoa that was in that jar. That's the only difference. They're in identical jars with the same amount of stuff, and it gets a totally different result.
Wild.
So that's another proof that we live in a simulated or a data respective language world. That Lawrence ineffectively is coding by writing those words onto the jar into physical reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about it. The Bible says we will be judged by our words. We will, what we say matters.
And it is not what you eat that defiles a man, is what comes out of his mouth. Go ahead.
Out of your mouth, right?
Yeah, I do believe that the words that come from our mouth, both verbally and the ones that we write down, are a programming language.
Yes.
And Lawrence, you're absolutely right. I'm a carpenter, a builder. When I first discovered SketchUp, when I wanted to build something simply as a non-physical idea, and then that idea I was able to code up within that 3D modeling program, and then once I had it modeled, build something, as long as I built it exactly the way it was modeled, what I would end up with is an exact physical replica of what my mind created.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to do my other experiment soon. I haven't got around to. I bought this one of these big jars that you can put a garden in, and the idea there was to have this garden starting off with just a bowl and some soil in the bottom and some seeds and a little bit of water, and then to weigh it and then to seal the top, and then see if when these seeds start to sprout, the actual sealed unit goes up in weight. Then the question is, where has that matter come from to increase the weight? Because it's a sealed unit. How can a sealed unit weigh more? And the answer is that light must have some weight. If light has got weight, then is that not a physical thing? And not just something that's, a wavelength? Do you think it? Well, I'm going to do it anyway, but let me ask the panel. Do you think this garden will weigh more once the garden spread? Even if it's only 2 grams more, do you think it will weigh more, the same, or less? As I'm going to seal it down. What do you think? We'll have a look in the middle of the summer when it's grown a bit, and when I've put it together, I'll weigh it on camera so you can see the weight on the scale, and then we'll weigh it again in 6 months. And
it will most definitely weigh more because matter has changed from one form to another.
Yeah. So where has that extra weight come from? Because it's a sealed unit. The only thing in there is the soil, the air, and the seeds.
It's form, air, molecules. The molecules that are sealed inside of there change from being air and water, which may weigh less than plant material.
Yeah, but
which is more physical.
Doesn't mainstream science say that you cannot destroy matter?
Well, if there's bacteria created, then the bacteria will be creating new matter, because bacteria grows just like cells in our body.
Yeah, but won't those bacteria need to grow to actually consume something within it?
You can't destroy information, Lawrence. No.
Well, you can with acid.
No, the information will still be, it'll still be there, but it can change form.
If that's the case, then the Earth must be getting heavier because all the growth.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll change weight either.
If it's physical, yes. If weight is just one of the many factors in our simulation, okay, then just like the Bible says, in the end times we will be able to move mountains. God can crush mountains with his voice. How can that be? You have to have
with enough faith is the size of a mustard seed. So, these types of instances and references, as well as the transporting, or I like to call it translating, of many of the characters in the Bible. And, Jason bringing up the Mandela Effect and the Bible is a quite interesting topic that I see amongst the truthers. And it's, for me, I don't think if the creator or the person that designed the simulator, he can do anything he wants.
Okay, John is, wait, please, everybody. John's waving his hand. I think he'd like to add. Well, he's laying down and he's just being chill. And so he's left and now he's back. So what do you got, John? Give us something amazing. John. Okay, now apparently he's lost his audio again. Why were you? Okay, never mind. John, whenever you have the opportunity to jump in, wave your hand and I'll give you the stage. Okay. One, I don't mean to jump around all over the place, but I want to give Jason another window of opportunity to go further with the presentation that he's put together and not keep cutting him off.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to keep refreshing. The first thing is the photographic evidence of closeness. The second thing was the angles of the sun and moon. Third thing, we just touched on the Mandela Effect and how that if you're looking for reasons of how this can happen in what we consider physical reality, the simulation is an explanation for it. This fourth one comes from the time that I spent studying non-duality. So when I had left the Jehovah's Witness religion, which is Christian by its foundation, although I don't subscribe to their views at all, I became a total atheist. And then eventually I got myself back to being agnostic. And then I started looking at the New Agey type stuff, and it was the Enlightenment non-duality that really became the center of my focus. And after studying non-duality for about 4 years, you come to the conclusion that cause and effect and duality are both illusions. And so I do think this is a simulation, and that we are being programmed all the time, completely from infancy on up. Our parents, the schools, the media, everything's programming us. And the two very foundational programs that I believe are being used are cause and effect and duality. Once you break those down, you begin to realize that everything's really happening spontaneously, and that you're the witness of it. And that's when I realized that this is most likely a simulation. So for people to understand, but the cause and effect, most people like to take a look at this like everything's happening like billiard balls, that one ball bounces into the next and it's all chain reactions. Well, if you look at it in reverse to see what the origin is, you're always looking for the original cause. And when you get back to what you would think is the original cause, what you discover is that it's not a billiard ball that started all the motion. It's a non-billiard ball. It's a cue stick. So there's a change of quality. And so without cause and effect, you start to see how that most of our operations, like Sigmund Freud's ideas of like the subconscious and all those types of things are really just like subroutine programs that are running that don't require your input. So the heartbeat, the breathing, so many things, scratching your nose, it doesn't take a whole bunch of conscious effort to do these things. Those programs just seem to be running in the background, and what we have is more a deciding control of, we're a decision maker. Our consciousness is. We're looking at various alternatives, and we're always choosing what we think is right, what we think is wrong, and we're following paths. But so many things are automated. I've noticed this before where, here's a great example of you're driving down the road and a squirrel runs across the road, and you slam on the brake, and then at the end, you didn't hit the squirrel, and you're sort of congratulating yourself that your reactions and stuff were just that amazing. But when you look at it close enough, you'll realize that the hitting of the brake and all that happened way before your conscious mind was really aware of what was going on, and that in the end all you did is you ascribe credit to yourself that you were an awesome driver and that you're attentive. But the foot goes down before there's even time to think. So it's the non-duality is a reason that I think this is a simulation. I don't expect people to understand this right off the bat, because it really did take a good 4 years of intense study to understand that cause and effect and duality are illusions. If people want to know more about this, I'm happy to go into detail about it and try to give explanations.
Well, let me just sort of jump in here on that aspect of it. Until you realized the earth was flat, or until you started looking at the earth being flat, it was always flat. It was flat from the time you were born, but you were told that you lived on a ball, and you were given all kinds of explanations for the ball, and to explanations ascribed to all the observations that you were seeing and feeling. And so as with anything, when you wake up, and I 100% believe that one switch in your programming was changed from a 0 to a 1, and you woke up, and it's got nothing to do with you. You didn't do diddly. But suddenly you are in a different, using different software. And the old software is, you're kind of like Neo in the Matrix. Suddenly you can see the code. Suddenly you can see everything that before you couldn't see, and it was right in front of your face. It's the same thing if a person sees a ghost and never saw a ghost before. If anybody told you about ghosts, you were like, yeah, whatever. And then when you saw a ghost or a UFO or a Bigfoot or any other anomaly that you'd never seen before, you actually had no fact in, your mental reality to be able to accept it. You just sort of, well, they probably know what they're talking about, but I've never seen it, so therefore it isn't completely real. So with regards to simulation, I think a whole lot of people got a wake-up call about the possibility when the Matrix movies first came out. And though that information was just sort of databased in the brain, and then as time went by, you picked up on other things, and you kept picking up on things. And one of the things that I picked up on from the Matrix that a lot of people didn't was when Neo first took the pill and he put his hand into the mirror, and he realized that the mirror was liquid, and that he was able to penetrate it with his meat suit. But then a different reality started to settle in. That took hold of his mind, he started to react with, now the mirror is looking like mercury or whatever, and it's crawling up his arm, and it's crawling up his, it's coming toward his head, and he's like choking in this new data, this new reality. And so each of us, I think, go through a similar kind of effect, and some of us fight it for much longer than others, but the reality's there. And then there at some point becomes a trigger that says, bingo, all of the things now that you have accumulated data-wise now make a different kind of sense. So light, water, all these elements that we have taken for reality are just as easily computer code a reality as a simulation, much greater than any simulation, anything you've ever seen before. So then you start ascribing that false reality or virtual reality to your real reality, and then it doesn't seem like such a stretch.
Yeah, I was just wanted to add that I was mind blown there when I was retrieving thoughts of action and reaction in my mind and what that whole paradox deals with. I don't know if Jason was going to continue there. I jumped in,
Yeah,
but that is such an interesting topic to get into on another time.
And yeah, I mean, we can continue this conversation for hours and hours and hours. And Jason, just to say, continue on your other thoughts. I do want to interact. I do want everybody to interact, though. So maybe don't think that we're so slow or that other people are so slow. Maybe it will actually take. It's kind of like pain reactors in the brain.
Yeah, Laura, you do like full on. You're like, give me the truth, nothing but it, all of it, right?
Go there. I mean, you know, I don't need introductions, and a lot of people don't. And if they do, then they can watch this 10 or 12 times later on, and they can catch up. But I'm sort of ADD for, you know, lay it all out. And if I don't understand something, then, or any of us, then we'll ask a question.
Yeah, well, I try to lay foundation, because this is a major jump. I mean, just as big as the jump from going from the spinning ball to the flat Earth is, the idea that our idea of physical reality is wrong is also another major large jump. So take it in steps, do it with reason and logic, and try to make sure that we don't lose people along the way, so that, you know, each step of the way, here you go, you're still with me,
All right.
And so yeah, we've got those four bases: the photographic evidence, the angles of the sun and the moon, the Mandela Effect, how non-duality played into a part of this for me as well. And the fifth thing that I'd like to talk about today is the reason why I would like to start using a new map for the modeling that I'm going to do. So we were talking about this before with Lawrence, you know, how if we can model things up 3D, our technology is to the point, right, that we can do this now, where the things that we can think of, we can model them, we can make them in the real world. Then we really need to be using these 3D modeling tools to understand our reality. And so in SketchUp, time, because it was free and it was pretty easy to use, and it's fantastic on a plane. You know, when you open up a SketchUp, a flat plane, you have a horizon that will always rise to your distance, and it's doing all the flat geometry, circles, stuff like that. But I want to be able to model up the paths of the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they're much more complicated circular paths. So if you go back to the angles, as far as the angle that it rises at, the angle that it sets at, the solar noon declination, the moon meridian passing, if you want to model up all those angles and make it look nice and pretty, I needed to move beyond SketchUp. So I started looking at what else is out there, and I came across Blender, which is also free. And I'm learning, working with it, trying to figure out how to use it. But the first thing I did learn how to do was take a 2D map, it's a regular flat map, and then wrap it onto a sphere. And when you do that, you can double check to see whether or not your map will model up into a sphere. And I think it is important that it does, because when you study the data, the paths that the sun, the moon, and the stars are making, they make it appear like we're on a spinning ball. So when you do look at a globe, when you look at a program like Stellarium, so it's modeled up in 3D, and it is presenting all those things like we're on a ball, the paths that they're taking. And so I think in order to get the people out there that still think that we're on a spinning ball because of these paths, to get them to realize that this is a flat plane, we need to show to take that globe model and how to project it out on a flat plane and show them that this can be done. And I think I have stumbled across that. So if you guys want,
well, yeah, I think we would be interested in you showing us and those who are viewing this version of a map that wraps around the globe and how to accomplish that. I mean, apparently, people have. I used this comparison this past week when, you know, all this stuff came out about Russian hackers in our election and everything, is for people to learn to understand the difference between a leak and a hack. And so it's the same thing with flat Earth maps and models. People need to understand to learn the difference between a projection and a flat map of Earth. Okay. All projections, all known projections are created from a globe. We go by the premise that all globe projection, the globe projection came from a real map of the flat Earth. So what you're saying with your presentation, and I just want to throw that out there before you get started, and because this is my take on what I've seen so far, is that without the computer manipulating the map, it doesn't fit on the globe. But with computer manipulation through these programs, it does. Okay. Does that make, am I on the right path with following your research so far?
Well, I think you'll understand as I proceed through it, and you can definitely ask questions. Okay. What I want to do is just in Blender, take some maps and wrap them on a sphere. Okay. And we can sort of do this as a little workshop and talk about what we see and what happens.
Okay.
And just sort of walk step by step that way.
Jump on it. And Lawrence is muted, so his Collignon map model is.
I just wanted to quickly add before Laurie, before he jumps back on, Jason. I just wanted to add the models and the globe and the AE. What we're looking for is stuff that matches physical observation.
Right.
Right. Right. That's the key here, is to have a working model that matches what we can measure. Yes, from the ground, from anywhere on the known plane, and how it works. And the globe does have some areas that it works. We all know this. This is how they pulled it. What Jason is doing is trying to figure out, you know, how they. Well, I'll let him continue. I just wanted to put that in.
No, I get that, and I'm not arguing that at all, and I completely understand that. What all I'm trying to say is that, in my opinion, everything that we've done so far, that Lawrence has done with the map and everything else, has been reverse engineered from observation. Okay, so the hypothesis of the Collignon diamond-shaped map and model, with all of its working parts, as John has shown us in his presentations, work off of observation. So as long as it works off observation, we're all open-minded.
Yeah, and that's what I'm focused on. So I've got Blender open here.
You're sharing, so I'm going to present you so that when other people talk, it won't pull the screen off.
All right, so this is what Blender looks like when you open it up. And keep in mind that I really don't know what I'm doing at all, other than how to wrap a map onto a sphere. So I'm going to delete that cube. I'm going to take this. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to pick a UV sphere. I'm going to hit smooth just to make that a little bit smoother. I'm going to come up here to this and take it to UV editing. I got to move this out of the way. Oh, what?
We lost your screen share. You're back on the full screen.
All right. Yeah, I had to
And I
move
can't
this
find
and then
my
it switched.
freaking camera to turn it off. Okay, so you need to get out of that screen, stop your screen share, and start again because you're frozen on that. There you go. The second one overtook the first one. So go back to screen share and reopen that under application window.
Let's see if this works.
Okay, you're back.
All right, so now what I want to do is open an image. And just going to start with large world map. So I'm just going to show you how this process looks. Now over here, I want to set this to ortho perspective, and then, oh no, that box is in my way.
Yeah, we know how hard this is, bro. No
Yeah, we
pressure,
do.
man. Just enjoy it, man. This is awesome, bro.
Don't worry about it.
I gotta keep that box out of my way.
Probably not you. It's probably the Hangout. It's got lots of glitches.
All right, so now what I want to do is click on edit mode. I'm going to click mesh, UV unwrap, sphere projection. And now I'm going to scale this mesh or a net.
It's probably where they get the UN, what is that? United Militaries Transfer, what is that? UTM? UMT?
Yeah, so now that I have that
traverse.
Yeah, UTM map grid from, it's always a grid.
I take this back to object mode, and now when I hit texture here, now we've got that map wrapped on a sphere.
Which is how far ahead of us they are on the programs they're using so that they can do Google Earth and project the Earth from the ground, from the sky.
You can look at the axes, the green line, the red line. This is laying out right now where it's there wouldn't be any tilt on the Earth. The equator would be on this plane right here. And then if we take a look at the top of it, you can see that when you use a map like that, that's rectangular, you're going to have polar distortion. So I'm going to zoom in on the top of this. And you could do things to fix, sort of like Photoshop these distortions here. But you have polar distortion when you use a rectangular map like that and map it out. So I was trying to come up with ideas and ways to have a map that didn't have the distortion when you wrap it up on the sphere like this. And in my study of math, I came across the stereographic projection, and that's what I had mentioned before is stereographic projection. That let me just show you what a stereographic projection looks like. Here's some stereographic projections, and these, when they're done properly, will wrap without any distortions onto a sphere. So there's not many of these that you can find online. And I was having some difficulty. This one, let me just show you what happens when I wrap this one onto a sphere, because it doesn't work out quite right. So I don't know how to go back. I actually just start over. It happens. This part of doing Blender is pretty quick and easy.
No, it's great. You know, it's interesting. The rectangle does not work. And, you know, everybody has been saying that, and it's good that you've confirmed that in a software program. It's really nice for everyone to see that. I know at some point when you get through all this or whatever, the Collignon and Lawrence's measurements and all that definitely will come into play. But I'll let you keep going, Jay. This is great.
So I'm gonna bring up a stereographic image and show you what happens when I place that on there. Where'd it go?
For those of you listening to this on podcast later, audio only, you may want to go to the YouTube channel and watch this part of the presentation so that you can see the visual on what Jason is showing. For those of you who are not able to go to YouTube and watch it because of bandwidth or whatever, then just fast forward through this part because it's...
Or email me and I'll send you I'll email the show free. No problem.
Something.
Email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just did something that I want to do again, and I'm gonna start it over one more time. I'm gonna come back to that. That's a mistake that I made. That it is sort of the key to all of this. It was just a simple mistake that I did, the order of the sequence, but it's going to be really interesting in just a second. So I'm just going to start this one more time. So.
Just while you're working on all that, I want to add a couple things here, and then I'll just shut up as you get presented on there what you need to talk about. But for those who are, and Ronnie and I have kind of hit on this, so this is sort of a little bit directed at Ronnie. Ronnie, have you found anything to do with the simulation effect theory, any of this that is anti-biblical for those flat earthers who came in from a biblical perspective?
No, actually it's almost an insanely amount of confirmations, like to the point where it's exponentially to the point where it's only possible in my so far of my, you know, I shouldn't say that because then I'm biased, but I have not come across any. And after Jay's done with some of these explanations, I have a Mandelbrot tesseract type projection explanation just for a quick afterthought.
Okay.
So what I've got here is that stereographic projection, and I had drawn a line on it like this was a flight. So this was a straight line on a map that when you come in and look at it, it starts making great circle routes when you use just straight lines on maps. But when you look at this, you can see that it's not mapping out to the North Pole and the South Pole correctly. It's shrunk right here, and then when you look around the backside, it's real distorted like this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when I was talking to Ronnie about this, how I'm looking for stereographic projections that will wrap up on a sphere perfectly. And he was awesome. He went out there and gave me a bunch of different ones to look at, because I was only coming across ones like this. And I was thinking that we would have to So you can take a look at this. Let me show you just a flat image of it. Here's the flat image of it, and if you count the spaces around these polar regions, these map out to like 12 on this side, 12 on this side. So these types of arcs actually become the time zones. So these become the latitudes and longitudes on a sphere. But this image, I tried distorting it a number of different ways to get it onto the sphere and have it work and have everything scale out correctly. I needed to have the polar regions line up correctly, and this image wasn't doing it. And so that takes me to really the exciting part of this. So what I want to do is I want to wrap an image on here that Ronnie gave me, and I'm going to show you a mistake I made and what ended up happening. So you chat a little bit. I'll just go through this process one more time, unless if you have any questions about this image being wrapped on here and how straight lines on a flat map, when you wrap them up, how they create great circles or room lines, which are what navigators, air and sea travel by, are room blinds.
Lawrence, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are you seeing anything so far that makes you question stereographic, not only on the models that he's produced so far?
Well, all right. Well, let's just turn the clock back to we know the Earth is flat now, and it's always been flat. But there was a time when everybody else thought it was flat, and it was decided for some reason to convince everybody that we weren't living on a flat Earth and we were on a globe. So they would have had flat maps at that time, and when they wrapped that map, to make the best job they could to put it on a sphere, it would not have fit exactly. So, for example, if they did it and they said, "Well, it fits, but we've got all these gaps here on this on the globe. What are we going to do with all these gaps?" And my thought there is that let me just share screen with you to show you something. Here we go. Let's share this. So what we've got here, this is Google Earth, and if you look on this side of Google Earth, it's all ocean. And my view is that a lot of this ocean is filler. It was just made up to fill the globe, because the map would not have fitted exactly, whatever map it was, it would not have fitted a globe-sized Earth exactly. And then we've got the cases of Google Maps, where when you zoom in, there's nothing there apart from some imagery that Google's created. You can't go and look at it, and the reason probably being is that there's nothing there. It doesn't exist, and that's why they won't show you. Now, I was speaking to a guy who is an expert on the UTM map, and he was saying that there are areas on that UTM that are outside the UTM that are not contained within the UTM. So the question is, well, why is that? So maybe those are areas too that simply don't exist, otherwise they would put them on the map. And when you look at the Calignan map and you compare the surface area to the globe, there's a difference of just over 20%, which I think they've lost in maybe on some of the landmasses, like parts of Greenland, Antarctica and places like that. I think they've just filled those in with non-existent places, because you just simply can't just, you can try and zoom in on Greenland and you can see certain parts of it, but others, there's nothing there. And then you look at this Google Earth, all one side, the creator made this world, and he's made the whole of one side an ocean. So my own view is that, these biblical times, I think they did exist. And at that time, it was a circle. It was a circle surrounded by seas. And then in the time of the Tower of Babel, where they talk about all the languages breaking up and people being disjointed, the land masses were moved around a little, you know, like on a grease skillet, and they were moved around a bit because, you know, you still got 95% or 90% of the world's population in the northern hemisphere, and all the things to do with pagan rituals, they're all based on the northern hemisphere. The solstice is always celebrated at Christmas, isn't it? You know, the winter solstice. It's based on the northern hemisphere because at one time, in my view, everything was based in the north. But on this Google Maps, you know, this ocean, you could easily hide. You know, you could paint in loads of ocean in there that doesn't exist. And how could you go and check it? It's not like it was a landmass that you could go and check and verify that it was there, because you're on the ocean. You've just got no way of checking. So
right.
Well,
you'd only have, yeah, you're saying you'd only have, you wouldn't, your GPS coordinates of latitude and longitude of someplace out in the middle of no freaking where.
So I think 20% of this ocean, it doesn't exist. It's just been added. It's filler to fill the gap on the globe between what the map had and what was needed to cover a globe-sized Earth.
All right.
So that's my thoughts about it.
That's one good explanation. Okay. Yeah. So, Jason, do you have more?
I do. This is the big one.
All right.
So I'm ready. I think you just need to present.
Yeah, you're presented. Go ahead.
All right.
You're presented. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. When the maps that Ronnie was looking for, he gave me this one, and at first it made no sense to me. But if you followed the building process that I was making right here live, where I didn't change the viewpoint of that sphere on the right-hand side, and then when I go to edit mode and then apply mesh, you end up with a mesh that looks like this. So when you adjust the viewpoint of the sphere on the right-hand side to ortho and then to a front view, you get a totally different mesh, that rectangular one. But when you, hello?
Yep, we're here.
Okay.
You're good.
So when you set that mesh on there, now I'll zoom in here and you can take a look at it. This is just like a default way that the mesh is being laid down. And you can see that it's not tracing to these lines on here exactly, but each one of these points on this orange mesh right here, you can click all these points and you can move them. I don't have the skills to do that. So it lays out pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is take this and go back here. Apply that as a texture. Now when we take a look at this, something really interesting happens. When I spin this around on the plane, you can see that the Earth is now sitting at like a 23.5-degree tilt. So the lines of latitude and longitude aren't perfect, because the mesh that I applied, we know that those mesh lines weren't perfect to the map. So there are some distortions in this. But
that's where you need the Lorenz's measurement.
Yeah, so when you look at where the North Pole here is, this really did come together pretty good. And then when you take a look at the seam on the back, look at the way these latitude lines are lining up here. You know, here's Hawaii here. Look at these latitude lines. There's just a little bit of distortion right here, and this is what Lawrence was just talking about, how you put the seam on the back side of the map right here.
Okay, can I ask, is that the what's the opposite of the prime meridian, the international date line? Approximately?
Yeah, on the back right here. This is the international.
Yeah. Okay. And you see the tropics and the equator.
Okay. Now
there's some really fun things that you can do with something like this. So if you take a map,
Go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. Lawrence, unmute yourself. I have a question, and then I have one of John.
So if you want, we can take a look at.
Just 1 second, please. Just hold on 1 second, because it's relevant to time. Lawrence, if you square the diamond map, how much more area do you use?
100% more.
100% more to square it. Okay.
You make it into a square, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then one further question of John.
Yep.
Mute yourself, Lawrence, please. John, is any of this clicking in with you with regards to your conversion of the Mercator to the Collignon? Is it any of this making any sense to you when you flipped the Earth and did all those other things?
The stereographic image is interesting, but I don't think you're going to get a perfect image that wraps around the ball, because if you look at any stereographic image, you always have some sort of prime or center between the two polar coordinates. And so if that's going to remain the standard and everything else is warped, you're always going to have warping, and it's going to be something that's non-contiguous, perhaps, not perfectly seamless. That's the only problem I have with stereographic images. Other than that, what Lawrence said about squaring the diamond, yeah, he's perfectly accurate. It's all just straight geometry. It's just half, double more. So
okay, so looking at this map right now, John, the prime meridian and the international date line is not the one straight up and down and skew, straight through the North Pole. It's the one next to it that makes the loop down to the other pole, correct?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the image. I'm not seeing it right now.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So this right here, there's one more really important piece of data that.
Okay.
So there was the fact that I hadn't been considering this style of stereographic projection, but I was taking a look at them. Ronnie had provided this one. I had forgotten to change the view, and it gave me that totally different mesh with the 3 different points that show up. And then there is a group of flat Earth researchers that are out there that are doing physical observations. They're taking readings of the angles of the sun, the moon, and the stars.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pulling coding information out of Google Earth's
we're aware of them
program, and they end up with 2 different Antarcticas, and that the sun and moon are doing like a U shape.
And I have photographic. I have time-lapse footage of that me, John, Laurie, and Lawrence all went over in northern Canada, and that is very pertinent to this subject.
Okay,
and it disproves the circling sun.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't what? Excuse me, what?
The circling sun?
It proves the circling sun?
He said
disproves.
Okay. And also, doesn't it turn out to be the Earth is a bathtub and it's concave?
I don't know about that. I'm just using this.
It's flat.
Their readings. I'm asking about their readings, Ronnie, that I thought that I got kicked out of that group because I mentioned it, and so online or on this channel, and they thought I was making fun of them, and I didn't get kicked out. I left, but I might as well got kicked out. But needless to say, they're doing a couple of different things. They're taking live readings from people at different places, but they're also downloading from Google Earth the data on their map, and apparently this is going to take a very long time to accomplish whatever they're doing.
When they said Antarctica breaks into 2 different areas and that there's a U shape going on, and then then through the blender, having this 3-point stereographic mapping to a sphere, I think if we have somebody that knows how to use Blender correctly and can lay the mesh to this map right here, that this will actually model up really as close as you possibly can to a globe as possible. You know, if you look at a globe, that international dateline makes a couple zigzags down the international dateline. So it looks like that might be where they stitched up some of the mapping errors.
Okay. Is it me, or does this bring back some kind of a memory of what is so-called Camis map on Globebusters?
I've never saw any of that.
Okay. Ronnie?
Yeah, but they were okay.
I guess I'm calling it the heart-shaped map they kind of first came out with.
Yeah, but this is okay. I do remember seeing Bob showing an image of this map, but he was referring to magnetic situations, which, in my humble opinion, is God. God is the magnetics, and what Jason is showing is totally new, and I hope that everyone's taking a look at it. That's all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking a look. You know, once Lawrence and I got to the point where the math worked and the layout worked and the distance between the cities and the time it took to fly there and latitudes and longitudes and timeanddate.com and SunCalc all worked on the Collignon. That's pretty much what I see in my head. So there's got to be another way to model the Collignon onto a globe. And so have you entertained doing that yet? Jason, is using that Collignon projection to fit on a globe?
I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
If somebody does, I'd like to see it for sure.
Okay. Okay.
So
in other words, what you're doing is you're taking the grid or the square first and putting the map on the grid, or putting the grid on the map.
So I start with just that image of the map, and then Blender has a mesh that they lay on it, and they have that 3-point mesh, which is what, you know, sort of sent me in the direction of taking a look at this map right here. And so this is one that has that flight from Johannesburg to Sydney, Australia, which gets talked about a lot on the you know, between the flat earthers and the globers. And so when you drew that, let me just show you this straight line. This is just using a tool where you draw a straight line from Johannesburg to Sydney on the image, and then I'm using that image in Blender, and this is the way that line wraps to the globe. And keep in mind that this mesh is not laid on perfectly, where the latitudes and longitudes are on there without distortion. I need somebody that can do this a lot better than I can. But if you take a look at the line that's produced, it's a great circle route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we understand that they're making great circle routes, but why are they making great circle routes? What is that? Why are they making great circle routes?
Because
as actual distances of flight and times of flight seem to not make any sense if they don't need to. Because obviously the fastest place between 2 points is a straight line.
So what I'm saying is this is the map that we're looking at right here, and this is the straight line flight. It's just that when you model it up onto a sphere, it looks like a great circle. So great circle routes on globes when projected out stereographically to a flat map like this, creates straight lines.
Okay, so now I have to ask you where Pac-Man fits into this, because obviously you have Antarctica divided on two different sides of this map. So if the map were put on a globe, that's one thing, but if it is not, then, and we don't have a globe, how does one fly from one place to the other on the flat? So you're saying this is flat. This is the flat map.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's what you're saying.
Yeah. So this is the stereographic projection, the way those two Antarcticas come together at the bottom of the ball. So the two meld together back into one. Now, keep in mind there are distortions here because I don't have the mesh laid out correctly.
Okay. So you're saying that you believe there are shortcuts on this stereographic projection.
I am. Yeah. Mark Sargent says there's no shortcuts on flat Earth, and looking at what I'm looking at right here,
he's wrong.
Tells me that there is a shortcut.
Well, we know there's shortcuts because we know that planes fly west to east and east to west in the shortest distance off the map.
But wait, it could.
So if you want to see something really crazy, what I can do is I can draw a line from Hawaii to Tokyo, and then wrap that on, and we can take a look at that and see how that works.
Okay. Well, what we need to do is we need to.
I'll draw that on.
Okay. What we need to do is Lawrence has already got the data that he used to make the Collignon projection be the most real based on distances between cities, flights, times, so on. So we would have to measure, because obviously the continents and things are distorted on this map based on what they really look like South Africa, for example, looks really strange.
Keep in mind too, Lori, the 24-hour midnight sun. Remember all that crazy anomalous stuff that we were finding? Even this theory here that we're talking about that he's showing, it kind of does even work for that as well. And I remember that was some of the strangest data that I've seen. It's quite interesting how this all lays out as well with the Mandelbrot and the Tesseract and the ceiling. But anyways, I'll stop now.
Okay, well, I'm entertaining it in my head, and I'm trying to imagine that this layout is one thing, but the distortion on the Collignon, there is no distortion. So that's one of the reasons that we also support that. All the maps, I mean, I've never seen a map that has that distortion of Africa or things being larger and smaller than they actually are. You know how some maps you look at, Greenland's giant.
Well, that's where you got to get Lawrence to set the mesh with Jason when they have time, because that's where I was saying to Lawrence yesterday, I've basically foreknew that we were going to have this topic reached, and I knew that Lawrence. I told you, Lawrence, you could attest to it, that I told you your information is going to be key to this for setting the mesh. The Collignon research is key as well. Like everything fits together. That's the most important thing about this research.
Yeah, we need the real world data.
Well, it's, I mean, all the information. I mean,
Lawrence is not the kind of researcher who keeps logs of all of the things that he researches, sadly.
Yeah, you just get them on there and start measuring.
Let me give you the general principles. Let me share the screen. I'm not muted.
Okay, no, you're not muted.
Let me share the screen.
Okay.
There we go. Let me share the screen. Okay.
All right.
So let's just bring up a Collignon map.
Okay.
There we go. So let's make it a bit bigger. Bloody. Right, here we go. Let's make it bigger. So, oh, that's too big. 600%. 200%. So on the Calignan map, so let's just get a line. So the distances on here, so you got 25,000 miles across. Yeah, and when you go onto any of the flight calculators, yeah, you can do between Quito and Nairobi and Singapore, they match absolutely exactly with this map. And when you do north-south flights from, say, Nuuk in Greenland down to the Falkland Islands down there, again, almost damn it, you're getting an exact match. Or you could do London down to Cape Town. You're getting exact, and straight lines between the pole, obviously, again, you're getting an exact match on distances. So when you actually look on longitude and latitude, the official data will give you distances from there to there, yeah, on the globe, and those distances are an exact match to this map. That's how it was made. I went on one of these calculators. So basically, it will only give you the distance of half the distance, because then it will find the shortest route by going the other way. So what you do, you'll find the distance from there to there, yeah, and you will double it, and that will give you the distance at that latitude from that side to that side, and they get progressively smaller and smaller as you head to the pole. And when you get to the pole, you've got a singularity. It's just that, you know, the distance across here, somewhere like there, it's probably about 2,000 miles. And as you get down to about here, it's about 40 miles. And when you get to the very bottom, you know, it's nothing. It's just a dot. But these match exactly. Now, you do get some distortions on the flight. So if you get a flight from, say, the UK to Australia, yeah, that's a straight line there. But on the, let's get a line, draw with a pencil, and you'll get, and it'll go something like, you know, something like that. You'll get a wavy line for the flight for places like that, and that's because they're showing it to you on a square map. And obviously the square map, as you move further south, it gets distorted. So that the Mercator map, the only place it's going to be accurate is at the equator. Everywhere else is too big, because this map is exactly half the size of the Mercator map. So, you know, you've got the Mercator map.
We're not using the Mercator map, though. It's a basically.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. The Mercator map has got all this area here, all this area here, all this area here. And so everything has been stretched out on the Mercator to fill the entire square. And these four corners of this these four triangles in the corners, you know, they are exactly the same dimensions as the bit in the middle. So yeah, all the routes fit. The maximum distortion is 15%, and that's where when you look at the Great Circle routes, they're very bendy. So this for me is the one that fits best. There's nothing else that comes close to it, you know. And then you can do flights from Alaska to London, Alaska to Florida, and they're matching exact figures. You can do London over to places in India, and they fit.
Okay, Lawrence, I have a question.
Sure.
Do the Great Circle routes change when you take the angle of the longitude lines out of that map? Because that's a distortion in itself, isn't it?
Sorry, repeat the question, Laurie.
The Collignon map.
Yeah.
When you, as you know, the lines of latitude or longitude angle on that map, from north to south, okay, that would add length, would it not? On the outer sides, on the outer four sides, it would add length, whereas on the inner side, it would add very little, because that center longitude line is straight, but everything beyond that is angled.
Yeah.
Right?
So Yeah, well, I'm still sharing, aren't you? So you look at flight distances, yeah. So here's one. Look, I can give you some examples here. So these are coming out absolutely straight. So these are virtually on the same latitude. So you go from Quito to Nairobi, it's a straight line. And if we flew from, say, let's go from Nuuk in Iceland to Stanley in the Falklands. Stanley, is it going to give Stanley? Let's calculate. There we go. You see what I'm getting again? We're getting straight lines. You're getting straight flight. There's no great circle routes for these straight line flights going down. But when you crisscross, then you get and long distances crisscross, you get the biggest distortions.
Okay, which is apparent on the Collignon. I'm trying to thread these together, okay, because they both work for the reasons that they work. Okay, his map works for wrapping it around the globe. His map, Jason's map, stereographic map, works for wrapping around the globe. Your map works for everything else. So my question is, when you're doing these up and down straight routes, north to south or east to west, the lines are straight. Yeah. The curved lines come in of the great circle routes when you get to the perimeter of the diamond map, just like they would on this stereographic map, because on the Collignon, the lines of longitude, the up and down lines, are angling as they go out in the west. Correct?
They're converging, yeah.
Very good observation.
And then you get these distortions like this. And the reason you're getting these distortions is because they're using it on a square map, and the square map converges in, but they haven't converged it in, and that's why that's the route from Seattle in North America to London. So look how that curves.
So, okay.
I don't think that these planes actually fly over Greenland. I reckon they're going in a straight line, because if they flew over Greenland, they're going to be using probably half as much fuel as they need to use.
Well, again, I have to jump in there, Lawrence, and say that people that have actually taken plane flights have witnessed, observed, and reported strange flight patterns for where they think they should be flying over.
How do they know where they are, though? You're flying at 35,000
they're showing
feet.
it to you on the little map on the back of the seat in front of you.
Yeah, but is that information correct?
Well, how would you know? Because you're 35,000 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we have that to contend with. All right.
Yeah. Well, they have to show it. They have to show it you that way on that map, because otherwise it would give the game away.
All right. Okay. So just clear your mind for a second and imagine that they're planning the flights on this stereographic projection.
Yeah.
All right. And let's say it works there. All right. On the stereographic. Why would they be using that?
I don't know.
Okay. So there needs to be found the cross connection, the cross reference between how your map, Collignon map works, and how the stereographic map works. And I think there's an anomaly that will be caught between the two that says one is reality and the other is for them to show us. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, there is going to be a difference between what we're shown and what we actually live on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have always asked you the question. Sorry, I've got my camera off. I've always asked you the question, and I've never really quite had a good response that I can wrap my mind around. Why the Collignon projection has angled longitude lines?
You mean why they all converge? Because they
why
do
they
on the
angle
globe,
out? Why they angle out to the equator and back in from north to the equator and back in? Why do they do that? Yet the map itself and the visual size and shape and location of all the continents matches the globe. Okay, it matches the globe for size and shape and location, right? But what it doesn't match is where's all the missing water on the back side. Okay, our international date line, the 180-degree longitude line, is on the outside, right? It would have to be real, they would all have to connect, okay, front and back of the globe, right? Okay, they're not there. That land is not there above, beyond that line, because they come back together there, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So if you took the Collignon and you divided it where the prime meridian is, and flipped it, put that on the outside as if that were the place where the magic crossing happened, whatever you want to call that, then the shape would be like an hourglass, correct?
What you mean that? Oh, you're losing me
prime
now.
meridian, straight line, Collignon map, prime meridian. Okay, flip it out here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you've got the east and west come to a point together, and you've got a straight line over here and a straight line over here. That would be a reverse Collignon. What defines why those angles are there from north to south? Would they still be there? Do you see what I'm saying? They have to still be there. So now you have that turned into this. Are you following me? Am I making any sense?
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You'd have to do, why don't you draw one?
Okay. Okay. What I'm trying to get to is that there has to be a correlation between the information used to define the Collignon as the best and closest map of Earth that we've come up with. Okay. Based on the data, it's like if you had no picture, if you just took all the data and you put it together and you drew a picture from it, that you would come up with what? The Earth, flat. But then we have this anomaly of east to west. Now, I have to ask you this, Jason. If Pac-Man is required for your stereographic map, and Ronnie, you've taken some time to look at this too. If Pac-Man is required, show me the pattern of the sun on that map. And are you going to end up with that free energy up and down thing?
Just wait. So I don't think of it in terms, I don't call it Pac-Man.
All right. Well, for lack of another word, we've just jokingly.
I know, but I think of it as asteroids. The 1979. What? You know the Asteroid video game?
No, I'm too old for video games.
Okay, so Asteroids was a 1979 Atari video game that the.
I know. I didn't play. I'm just saying. Okay, so describe what happened.
Okay. I think we're talking over each other.
So okay. Well, okay, there's a delay. I'm sorry. Okay,
so what I have right here is, this is actually called the oblique Mercator projection cylindrical conformal, 1894. And so as a demonstration here, I'm just going from Hawaii to Tokyo. I've drawn a blue line on here, and now I'm going to use this image. So what I'm doing on this map is any flight, I'm just drawing a straight line from point to point. And then I'm going to take the map and I'm going to wrap it up on a sphere. And so with that, here's Hawaii, and you can see that my mesh is not laid out perfectly. This needs to be fine-tuned, but if you take a look at what happens when you draw the line from Hawaii out, And then to the other side,
Are you sharing? I'm not seeing
you'll see the way the lines come together. Are you able to see this?
Yeah, but it's only, there's a lag in your audio, so I don't know why, but
yeah, reshare it. It's flashing. I don't know.
Ronnie, I can't hardly hear you. We may have exceeded our bandwidth. Okay, now I see this. Okay, now I see this. This is way delayed. Okay. So those, you're saying those two lines can pretty closely match up.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Okay.
if you looked at the image, I had drawn just a little short line from Hawaii to the edge of the map,
Mm-hmm.
and then from Tokyo, I drew a line back to the edge of the map, and here they are coming back together. That what we call a great circle route, but it was a straight line on a flat map.
All right. So I'm gonna reserve some time to mull this all over.
Mm-hmm.
And see what kinds of what kind of input that I can add to it after sleeping on it, I guess. There's got to be a reason why they're plotting great circle routes.
Yeah, so it turns out in mathematics that a straight line on a 2D flat surface, when projected onto a sphere, makes a room line, which is what navigators use. It's a curving line that is part of like the Fibonacci sequence or something like that. If you take that same arcing line on a sphere and then project it back to a 2D flat plane, it becomes a straight line.
Yeah, but
Okay.
the thing is, Jason, if that straight line that you're talking about on a flat map, if you project that onto a globe over the equator, a straight line remains a straight line, and a pole-to-pole line on the flat map will still be a straight line on the globe.
You're perfectly correct. That's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because
well, let me just show you something else, because I found this very interesting, because I was having a discussion with a guy called Florida Adventure, I think his name was, and he's an expert on the UTM grid. So if you haven't seen this video, it explains the UTM grid. If you just type in the UTM grid on the search and find Florida Adventure. So I asked the guy a question, and I'll bring it now so I can remember what I actually said. And I said, thank you. You raise another interesting point regarding the width of each zone. Because let's remember, free energy led us to believe that this was like a uniform square grid over the entire map, but it's not. And he says, you say the maximum width of each zone is 666. There's that 666 again. 1,000 meters at the equator. Does that mean that each zone has a shorter width as you move north and south of the equator to mirror the converging lines of longitude and latitude? And this is what the guy says. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. The zone's boundaries are the converging longitude lines, and the rectangular grid, 1 million meters wide and 20 million meters long, is superimposed over the zone. Naturally, some parts of the grid lie outside the zone's boundaries, and the coordinates in that part outside the zone are not valid, since that outside part is not found on any map. So they're saying there are places outside of the map, outside the zone, but they're not on a map. So what places are these? Are these fictional places? And then he says, in this way, the portion of each grid lying inside the actual geographic zone is breaking into the grid's nice, neat squares, great for local and navigation. So it says it's primarily designed for land navigation.
So to me, it makes perfect sense.
But yes, so basically he's confirming that the UTM grid is not, it's been distorted to make it look square for navigation, but it actually gets narrower as you get to the poles, And then for the poles, they've got a totally altogether different map again because it's so distorted there.
But he just showed you the mesh problem, Lawrence, with the demonstration. That's what has to be calculated. Yeah. That's where we're at. That's what we need. That's what Jason looks like it. You know, for me, this is the first time I've seen this presentation. And, both sides of the discussion are great. Lawrence's pinpoint measurements and data with the Collignon, and then this projection here and the way that it works on the sphere. And, next is trying to understand the wind patterns, the stars, the sun, the moon, and these types of things. But to me, this is an epic. This is just great, guys. Great job.
All right. I have one other thing that I would like to add to this. Okay. The map. Okay. There's two maps. There's a map of the terrain looking down, and there's a map of the sky looking up. Okay. In my opinion, we have the celestial map and the terrestrial map. And we know that the celestial map follows the terrestrial map, and it has for thousands of years, if there even have been thousands. Okay. I have to start saying stuff like that now because the simulation theory says we could all have started this program day before yesterday. Okay. So they can with pinpoint accuracy predict things like where the astrology map, if astrology map is going to be on any certain day, eclipses, all that stuff. Okay. Years into the future, because it's a program, and the program repeats itself no matter what. And it hasn't altered any according to our history, because the locations of the planets and stars and so on, or whether you want to call them wandering stars, have repeated themselves ad nauseum for however long they've been doing that, as well as the sun and the moon and the so on. All right. Now I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this conversation by saying, if they can pinpoint with such accuracy, then how does that fit on any of these models, maps? Because the terrestrial, we're observing what's going on in the sky, and have been putting it on maps and videotaping it and every other kind of thing forever. Can anybody ascribe how any of these projections work?
And you're not even, yeah, Lori, we haven't even started to talk about spatial measurements and the third dimension and the fourth dimension, like with the repeating way that the reality does turn, which I don't know if any flat map or round or any shape could ever depict. It has to be a repeating fractal image of itself. We're only
Ronnie,
scratching the surface.
They have been able to replicate it on what's called the celestial sphere, the inside of the looking up, right?
Yeah.
The fake thing with the thing flying over the stars and the snow globe effect over the top of us. The celestial sphere, isn't that what it's called? Or am I using the wrong word?
That's what they use to project the paths and the movements of the stars. But the Mandelbrot, this is what, I commonly just use these Carl Sagan.
For people who do not know what that is, can you screen share an image concept of the Mandelbrot, please? People know what the Tesseract cube looks like.
I'm screen sharing it right now. Is it not coming through?
Oh, no, because you're not. Okay, there you are.
Okay, so there's Arthur C. Clarke, who came up with the whole word satellite, and I commonly like to put these men down, Carl Sagan and Arthur C. Clarke, and then I thinking about all this spatial dimensions and and this repeating talk of Pac-Man and, you know, everything that we've all been through on this ride. I came back to this, and I remember I watched this video, this debate a long time ago, because Stephen Hawking is actually like trying to defend Christianity and says that, you know, knowing our neighbors isn't going to be found in the cosmos. But anyways, Arthur C. Clarke says that when they added spatial measurements into the data of everything, they came up with what was known as the Mandelbrot. Mandelbrot. Can you hear it?
Should happen now.
Yeah.
Computer
barely.
Now give you this image, and I think you'll agree when it comes up, it's a very impressive black hole. And it'll be even more so when I start it into action.
Oh, yes, it is magnificent, isn't it?
Ah, you ain't seen nothing yet. I should explain that this magnification, you remember the original picture, which it took at the same area. This time I've magnified it about 1,000 times. So the picture you saw first is now 500 feet across. Now let's see if this works. Now, isn't that lovely? So there's matter streaming into this black hole. Well, now, when I found this black hole, I started exploring the neighborhood, and I very quickly found another.
Indeed.
That's lovely. Now, this is the second black hole. Now, it looks just like the earlier one, but this is on a far greater magnification. The original Mandelbrot set now is, I think, about 10 million miles wide. This is enormously bigger than the first one you saw, yet essentially it's the same kind of pattern. This is black hole number 3, and this one took me 22 hours of computing the day before I left Sri Lanka. I had the computer running all night, and I'm rather proud of this one.
Arthur would have taken him 5 minutes today, right? So
Yeah.
does everyone understand what he's discussing here?
Sort of. I'm still sitting here thinking, was he leaking, or was he leaking information, or was he setting up a future psyop?
Well, no, if you listen to the rest of the debate, you'll hear the psyop clearly when he talks about the Roman Catholic Church and a bunch of other things, and outer space and aliens. But when he's talking about this Mandelbrot set, I believe he was truly sharing his life's passion of trying to explain the fractal, the micro to the macro, and all the data. You know, I don't know enough to really comment on Arthur C. Clarke, but what he's done and shown here was a really impressive way of explaining like a loop of matter and reality in a stream. And I've sent the link in chat, and I'll leave the link in the description. Just an interesting concept of how the more magnified or the more smaller or larger the picture remains the same. That's the point here.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be taken into account when doing that.
Okay, just more info to put into the stream of consciousness here. But
I think we got a lot to chew on right now.
Well, and this is, you know, this has been the nature of the open source stream of consciousness sort of hangouts that we've been doing since we started. And we've never, you know, yes, we talk off screen to each other, but, and Lawrence and I have many times, but for the most part, we just hang out and share and let it rip and see what happens and see where it goes. And if we do not try to control the direction, we usually end up closer to a simple explanation. And that's, I think, the key to our reality and to flat Earth is they've been trying to make it more difficult and more, what's the word? Convoluted as the years go by, versus keeping it simple, stupid. And I think Occam's razor is what I use most of the time. The simplest explanation is probably the right one. So back to recap, because we're well over the couple hours we were going to hang out, and that's the way it always goes. But to recap, we're going to continue to include simulation theory concepts. We're going to have to come up with some of our own terms, like birefringence and Faraday and whatever. Sorry, Bob, you got kicked out of chat, but you got a little too over the top, as always.
Direction.
The Faraday effect is a very demonstrable effect.
Yeah, very demonstrable effect.
Within it.
Well, so let's hear about the apparent sun a couple more times.
The magnet itself. So to me, it makes perfect sense.
With the apparent position.
It makes perfect sense.
And also, when you get back into your apparent position of the sun, like you said, we look at the sun, and the sun doesn't look through.
Yeah, it's not where it is, right?
It's not where it is.
Bob.
And now, Bob, maybe you could add to it. It's probably not even real.
Well, you know what,
Lori? A
simulation. If Pac-Man wanted to go up the wall, we could understand how the heavenly bodies move.
Well, you know what? Okay, so I'm going to end this charade with this, saying this, and that is, you go where you want to go, boys, and we'll go where we want to go. And you're not stupid, and we're not stupid. We're all on a level playing field, except some of us are not getting paid, and some of us have no reason to misdirect, redirect, disinfo, and misinfo. Some of us don't have a reason to do that. So we do not use terms over and over again that just goes right over the top of people's heads for a reason. Okay, we try to keep it as simple as possible, and we don't hate on anybody except those that we suspect are passing misinfo, disinfo, and otherwise known as horseshit. Okay, so go ahead, Jaron, and make another 2-hour video with the waka 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 and making fun of me and Lawrence and Ronnie and now Jason. If you need to, if it makes you feel better, but you guys can continue to ignore the things that we're talking about, but then months later introduce them as if they are your own. And you can do that if you want. But as for me and my house, we're going to continue with open minds forever, all the way through till we figure it out. We may never figure it out, but we're not going to make excuses for why we can't figure it out, like Faraday's and apparent suns and birefringence and whatever other terms we can come up with that are science terms, by the way. So, Lawrence, in recapping, what do you think you learned today from this?
Well, good question, Laurie.
I know.
Well, yeah, I think.
I mean, I guess my question is, how are you going to use it?
I don't know. I mean, with all this stuff, it's just thoughts that come into your head, and you just go off at some wild tangent, not knowing where it's going to go. But miraculously, usually, it leads to some new discovery of something that in the future becomes more apparent. Or just putting the jigsaw together from all these strange bits of information that we have, and you notice something strange. You may not mention it at the time, but when these new bits of information come out, then everything makes sense. And it doesn't make complete sense at the moment, but it's making more sense than it did. And other people are unconnected with flat Earth, because that stuff that was out about, that was a chemtrail guy who was putting that information out about that black sun. But that was a real eye-opener for me, seeing that Masonic picture with the sun with a black circle right in the middle of it. And that was from about 100 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that that's been blown off as a camera anomaly?
Yeah. Well, obviously not.
More bullshit, Lawrence. More bullshit. That's what it is.
What were you saying there, Laurie? The sun that we're seeing in the Antarctica now is an artificial sun that's
it's highly likely that the sun that we see in the far north and far south that looks to make a circle for the purpose of making us think we live on a globe, okay?
Yeah. Even though nobody goes there.
Okay, let's go like this. Modern college, Morden College, okay?
Yeah.
This popped up because flat earthers started investigating and getting out, breaking free of their programming that said, no, there can't possibly be circling sun in Antarctica because A.E. Gleason, okay? And they ignored it. Now we know why they wanted to ignore it, because they wanted to stay in support of the map and model that they were comfortable with. Now we break out of the comfort zone, and then there's this anomaly. And this anomaly is, this looks like a globe because this thing is going around in a circle in Antarctica. Well, what better way to make it look like it than to create this simulated sun? I mean, after all, here's another dot to connect. Okay, we just showed on our group last week the amount of weather balloons that are being launched with satellites attached from Antarctica. And you're like, what the hell? Why would they be launching them from Antarctica?
Oh, I think the Morgile just Skyped in.
AE model, if you assume the atmosphere exists.
Oh, the atmosphere. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Jason, it's the atmosphere. With the AE model works. Did you hear that?
Okay, cut that out. Because not everybody has seen that Jason got booted out of.
That was
how does
not everybody stop. Not everybody has seen that Jason got booted out of Clubhouse.
That would be part of the Faraday effect.
Faraday,
and also probably atmospheric refraction down at
refraction.
Okay.
Only at that latitude, though, guys.
Ronnie,
way to break my train of thought.
Ronnie, you've got to get that one of Jaren's. Get that one of Jaren's where he says. He says, I can't see anything wrong with this map, but it has got some faults.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
listen, not just them.
I'm going to have to run. So if I could, I'd just like to do a quick recap. And then I look forward to talking again. But the 5 basic points that I went through today were the photographic evidence of things showing up really close to us, the angles of the sun and the moon, the Mandela effect, cause and effect and duality being programs that are illusions that are running, and then the new map that shows how a 2D map can be wrapped onto a sphere, and how when you plot straight lines on that 2D map, how they create these circular great circle routes that pilots think that they're flying, even though they would just be flying that straight route over that 2D flat map like that. But I appreciate it, guys.
Well, and we'll ask you back to join us again. And we appreciate you giving us your time and the opportunity to learn about what you've been working on.
Well, thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a great afternoon, Jason.
And yeah, thanks for having me back on, Lori and Lawrence. And
thanks for all
John. Your relentless searches.
John was having some problems apparently, and he has been, and he was working on adding something new, and I don't think it really was working long term. Or he could have just said, you know what, I'm not into this today, and so I'm going to go have some fun. It could be either one of those. So anyway, Ronnie, thank you for bringing Jason in to talk with us, and I'm sincerely going to entertain his research and what he's.
Well, it's your research too, Well, you've helped me a lot too. So.
No, I get that, and it's all of us, and that's the point that I was trying to make earlier about connecting the dots. Each of us have our own interests and our own purpose in this, and those who are not actively doing research and trying to figure this out, good for you. That's fine. Nobody's calling you out or calling you bad for not doing your own version of research. It's not for everybody. But for those of us who are, we don't appreciate getting beat up on for sharing it with others, because we could just keep it to ourselves and we could figure out life, the universe, and everything, and not tell anyone. And that would be fair in that scenario. So, but as far as, you know, we've laid off of Globebusters for quite some time. But you know what? When I see bullshit, lines and lines and lines of it, and over and over and over for months and months, you know what? I don't have to keep quiet. I don't have to shut up. Neither does anybody else. They have their followers. They have their people who like to get together on Sunday afternoon and listen to the chat. The fact that Bob was listening to the show and was in the chat earlier and, you know, kind of threw a little hissy fit and got kicked out, says that they're interested in what we're saying. In my opinion now, and we're going to put this in quotes, in my opinion, is for the purpose of coming up with more layers of bullshit and to cover over the direction that we're going and making fun. And as long as they continue to do that, then we'll continue to call them out. So that's all I got to say about that. But we're going to continue to keep the idea of the simulation theory as an aspect to some of the flat earth research, if not all of it, in the mix. What else you got, Lawrence? Time to sign off.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
wait,
it for
wait.
today.
Can you hold Finn up so we can all see Finn?
Finn? Where's Finn?
Finn is Lawrence's new puppy.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Where's Finn?
Want to see Finn right, because he's the new mascot for flat earth research. Just kidding. Thanks to everyone in chat who contributes. I don't look at it that often because I can't have enough time, but thanks for all you guys to join us and all of the viewers. Hi, Finn.
Yeah, he won't sit still for long.
Yeah, and he'll probably eat your earbuds. Well, he's a puppy, for crying out loud. Hi,
Yeah.
Finn. Hold him up a little bit, Lawrence. We can't see him. There's a good boy. And what is his breed,
razor
Lawrence?
teeth. He's an Irish setter.
Oh, boy. He's a cutie. All right. Well, we'll be looking forward to watching
Hey, go on, get down.
grow. We'll be looking forward to watching him grow. So thanks, Lawrence, for another way to chat. And we'll continue working on some of this stuff. And I know some of the things that were talked about today will strike you and will set off in a new direction. So see you next week. We'll probably do this same time next Sunday, if that works.
Yep. Super. Yeah, much
Oh,
better.
wait, next Sunday is Christmas.
Yeah, that's
Do you
true.
want to do that, or we'll figure it out? So
We can put a show out sometime.
yeah. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Good night, folks. Sleep well.